Hey folks, I'm Timlin, and welcome to my Postmortem video for the Staffordshire University one-up internship. Let's get started, shall we? So, what's the plan for this presentation, this video, this session? Well, we're going to start with an introduction on myself, as well as an intro to the internship, what it is, how it works, and how someone even gets onto the internship in the first place. And then finally, we'll talk more about the project that I specifically worked on. You may have a bit of a gist already as to what that project is, but we'll talk about that later down the line. Then we have the process. So we can talk about the project overview. So what was the goal of our project? What was the goal of the internship overall? We can also talk about, or we're going to talk about, some of the challenges that we faced and the lessons that we learned as we overcame those obstacles. And then finally, a bit of personal development, as well as some professional development and overall project-wide successes and achievements. Because that's good to talk about. The accolades that the project received. And then we'll talk about the gameplay demo, talk through some of that, talk about some of the things that I contributed towards, because they're the things that I am able to talk about in more detail. Watch the other postmortems if you want to hear about other things. So, let's get started with the introduction. So, who am I? I'm Timlin, you know that much. But you don't know anything else. It'd be strange if you did. So, currently, I'm an associate lecturer of technical games design at Staffordshire University. But at the time of doing my internship, I was just at the very end of my bachelor's in computer gameplay design and production. I tend to specialise in games design. I do a bit of level design. I love board game design, analog games design, and I love working on Unreal Engine too. And that's what I tend to specialise in. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about the internship, the thing that you are here for. So, the one-up scheme, it allows students of all levels, from foundation to masters, to work alongside a group of academics for a total of 6 weeks. And the aim is to produce a game, or games, that will eventually get to a stage where they are good enough to be released, published, make some money, and flourish on people's portfolios. The internship, the applications for it, open up partway through an academic year. And as I said before, any students from foundation to masters can apply. There are a few prerequisites. Of course, there are limited places, so there's some attendance-based requirements, some grade-based requirements. But other than that, anyone at the university can apply, regardless of what discipline they are within games, and regardless of what level they are within games. So it's open to all. And for the duration of the scheme, I worked on one of the 2 games exclusively, that being MechHead, which you've probably guessed already. So, a little bit more about MechHead. It's a fast-paced action arcade shooter. The goal is very simple. It is to blow up enemies, fight through waves, get better weapons, to continue to blow up stuff. And when you are unable to continue to blow up stuff, because you yourself have been blown up, you have a score at the end. The goal is to just get the highest score. It's a tale as old as time. Blow stuff up, get points, blow more stuff up than everyone else. And for the duration of this project, I was MechHead's lead designer. So my job was to design the core systems that we implemented, as well as guiding the direction of gameplay through balancing, through design documentation, the initial stages of design. That was my job, as well as to continue to program core systems down the line for other team members to work with. So, that's kind of our basic introduction. Let's get a little bit more into the process. So, the project overview. The initial goal for both, not only the project, but both games within the internship were to be developed to the point where they could be published and sold on Steam. So I worked on MechHead, but you may hear about Mental Block from other Postmortem videos that will probably be put up around the same time. So Mental Block was a puzzle game, or is a puzzle game. Not I'm using past tense there. MechHead, arcade shooter. They're two different genres. And hopefully they're both in a good state to the point where we can publish them, we can sell them. However, Mental Block was in a better state initially, so the first 3 weeks was a fight for MechHead's continued development, for its survival. Our aim was to take it from what it started as, which was a teaching framework for students doing foundation design and foundation engines. It was to take it from that, and it was to turn it into something that could be published and sold. And we didn't know. We were kind of uncertain if the development was going to continue after 3 weeks. Thankfully, the work that we all put in was great. It was to the point where we could continue to work on it. It was a fight, but we won. So, with that fight, there were challenges. Let's talk about them. First of all, it's more of a personal challenge. So, MechHead's design team was quite small. A lot of the designers were working on Mental Block at the time. They needed a lot of levels pushing out. They needed a lot of new systems programmed in. MechHead, we mostly had level designers. Which, if you look at MechHead's level design, it's really good. So shout out to the level design team. They all did a fantastic job. But as far as design went, I was the only games designer in charge of designing systems, in charge of designing mechanics. So it meant that the non-level design workload was quite high. We couldn't spread it out. There was no one to spread it out to within our design team. I didn't want to take the level designers away from the great work that they were producing, but at the same time, I didn't want work to flounder because it would be forgotten or because it would be left in my hands and I'd drop it while juggling other things. This did mean that a conflict of vision was unlikely though, which is a good thing. It meant that when designing core systems, when designing or influencing the direction of the game, there weren't many people to argue over it. It meant that our direction was clear, our driving force, we knew where we were going with it. It was really just me, as well as the lead, the production manager on the game. And the direction was in our hands, which was good, and we typically agreed. And when we didn't agree, it was for the greater good of MechHead. Shout out to Dan. So you'll hear more about his journey in his postmortem. So, within the design team, whilst there wasn't space to allocate jobs elsewhere, level designers continue to design their levels, which was great because I don't want to take them away from their work. We could then work closely with the tech team instead for more technical tasks that designers will undertake. For example, I want to prototype a trap system or hazards, so things like landmines, quicksand, lava, Tesla coils. And I could go to the tech team and I could go, I'm working on this, and this. Could one of you take it off my hands and prototype a hazard system? And then they hand it back to me. I can work with that. It made life a lot easier by being able to delegate and allocate and just work as a team. That's kind of the point. Not everything has to be undertaken like as a solo developer, because we're not solo developers. We're a team of 30. So make sure everyone has a job and everyone is doing something. And it means that it's going to be smoother for everyone involved, and we don't have to drag people away from the work that they're involved in already. And in addition, the discipline leads, for which I was for design, we pushed for self-management amongst team members. My design team, I don't want to say it was laissez-faire, but it was more so, all right, what are you doing? I'm doing this. Well, that's good. Keep doing that. We don't go and look over everyone's shoulder all the time, because that's not the environment we want to create. We want to make sure that people can self-manage and self-delegate and ensure that tasks get done. Of course, we still need to be leaders, but I learned to be a better leader by acknowledging that leaders don't... There's a difference between being a leader and being a boss. And you have to learn how to lead like a boss. That was awful. I'm sorry. Let's continue. We have producers. Producers. They can save your life when it comes to project management. Producers and leads, they exist to ensure that development goes smoothly for everyone. And they exist in the industry for a reason. It was great to be able to work in an industry-like environment. Very organic to what the industry feels like. A lot of your university journey is solo development, and that's good for building up skills, building up the kind of hard skills, but some of the soft skills, the social aspect, the communication, the project management. Those kinds of skills come by working in a team. I think overall we learned to work better as a team because we had the capability to, we had the facilities to. We had producers, we had members of each discipline. We didn't have to carry disciplines that fell through because we had everyone. And it's a great opportunity to be able to work in that environment before then graduating and going off into industry later. It's good experience. And of course we talked about all those challenges and all those lessons learned, but what came of it? What did we get? So with MechHead specifically, TIGA awarded it the best arcade game at their industry awards this year. This year being 2023, in case you're watching this later, in 2024, which it nearly is at the time of recording. So 2023 is what I should say instead. And I'm getting off track a little bit. Being the best arcade game produced by a university, it is the first game produced by a university to win at the TIGA Industry Awards, which is quite the accolade. It's just another thing to talk about. And personally, I'm quite proud of this achievement. As the lead designer for the game, I was able to greatly influence what direction it took. And I worked hard to purposely craft this great feeling gameplay experience so that hopefully, kind of pushing it into TIGA, it could win the award, and it did. So it turned out really well. Right, we have a demo here. I'm just going to talk through this for a bit, talk about some of the interesting aspects, turn down the volume of course. So the gameplay itself is very fast paced. At the start there's a shop. The weapon system was something that I worked very closely with. So the behaviour of a lot of the weapons, the generic archetypes that we push weapons into, was something that I worked with and balanced. And in the top centre of the screen you can see a bar that fills up whenever you shoot. This is kind of our reverse ammunition system. We wanted to keep gameplay simple and focused on, well, the movement to be focused on traversal and evasion of enemies rather than the collection of specific ammunitions. We didn't want there to be having to pick up rockets for your rocket launcher, having to pick up bullets for your machine guns, having to pick up kind of power packs for your lasers. So we made it so each weapon builds up a certain amount of heat whenever you shoot it. So instead of losing ammo when you shoot, you instead gain heat. And heat will build up when it reaches 100%. you can't fire until it's cooled down. And if you're to stop shooting for a while, you'll see that the heat bar goes down. So the ammo management is more simple, but at the same time, we keep it flavorful in the way that the weapons will build up heat. So it's not, you don't have to suspend your belief too much. It's still flavorful and it's still more enjoyable, and it lends more to that arcadey experience. And as you can see here, the level design itself, as I said, don't want to take away work from the level designers and give them something else, because these levels are awesome. I really like how they've turned out. Additionally, something else that I worked on quite closely was the overdrive ability. Working with that, kind of like an Overwatch ultimate, is how we would have described it. You see that you overheat and you get more powerful. You don't build up heat, or the speed at which you lose heat is faster than the speed at which you build it up. So you can fire a bit more recklessly. It just means you can switch your brain off for a little bit, boom, 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 blow up a bunch of stuff. But anyway, this gameplay looks great, and it turned out really well. I'm really glad that I was able to work with a great team that could help produce this. And of course the stats speak for themselves. Or the awards speak for themselves. Thank you, TIGA. So, we'll move on from that video, and we'll talk about, well, we'll come to our conclusion, the key takeaways, the end of this post-mortem. So, the lessons that we learnt along the way: we had producers, we got to work in an industry environment, and that helped us all become better team players, as well as allowed me to become a better leader. As you can see, I learned to be a better leader. I also learned to be a better designer and a better programmer. I got to focus solely on games design for once. I didn't have to. I could leave the level design to the level designers. I could leave more of the tech programming to the tech programmers. I got to focus solely on my specialty, and everyone in the project got to focus solely on their specialty, which meant that the game was full of specialist knowledge on everything, and it turned out really well because of that. So, as I was saying, I can polish my skills, but I do get to polish my skills in a setting that emulates the industry. I've talked about this a lot already. Being able to have producers, being able to have everyone in that environment know what they're doing in that specific discipline. It's great. It means that you know that you can trust everyone in that room to produce that best possible work for that discipline. And every now and then, I did go out of my comfort zone to try new things for the sake of development. I did a little bit of UI art. I made the MechHead logo. Things like that. I'm a designer. I don't tend to do that kind of stuff. But if the development needed it, I was there to do it. And I got the chance to do it. Right. The enjoyment of the process. I've talked a lot about the process, but I haven't talked about how much fun it was. I was able to work with a team of awesome people to establish good connections with them. So when they go off into the industry, I know that there's going to be people in the industry who I'm connected with. And those connections don't really just go away. You'll forever have worked on MechHead with those people, or interacted with the Mental Block developers. The connections go far and wide. You're connecting with at least 30 people. So it's a good thing to do, so you can get those connections. And hopefully my passion has shown throughout this discussion, because I love designing games. Give me the chance to do it, and I'll do it. Why wouldn't I want to design more often? You throw MechHead at me, and I can hopefully guide it into something that wins a TIGA award and gets published and sold on Steam. Why wouldn't I want to design more games? And also now, as my current role as an associate lecturer, I'm at Staffs. I can continue to participate in One Up for years to come. Now on the other side of the curtain, as a member of staff instead. So it's good that I've done it from this perspective, because now I can continue to do it. I can continue to improve it for years to come. And then a little bit about personal and professional development. So One Up is a great portfolio booster for both industry and academia. It shows that you have the ability. It shows that you have the experience now. It shows that you have worked in an industry-like setting before. It can help you secure positions, and it's really good for the portfolio. I like to think it helped me secure my position. But now, as more of a personal thing, I get to continue to work with some of the people that I've formed bonds with through work on MechHead. For example, I've mentioned him already, the production manager, Dan Bond. We work quite closely together now. We get to write a paper together. We work on modules together. And I think we work quite closely together now because of our initial work on MechHead. So the bonds that you can form by working on games like this can last beyond that 6-week development period. And then, of course, an award win is always good for the portfolio. Just because that award was won in 2023 doesn't mean that it expires, doesn't mean that it disappears. You have that award win with you forever. And last but not least, here's where to find me. So currently my email is just tyler.timlin@staffs.ac.uk if you want to contact me. Additionally, my LinkedIn is just my name, and then I have a portfolio link as well, where you can look at other projects I've worked on alongside MechHead. But anyway, that was my post-mortem of the Staff's Uni 1-Up internship. If you haven't already, check out the other ones. There's a bunch of interesting developers with a bunch of interesting things to say. So go and watch them. Go and listen to them. Because they're all great. But anyway, bye-bye.